4 years ago, as Valentine's Day was approaching, my boyfriend and I had planned a nice dinner date, like many other couples do. When we arrived at the restaurant, we noticed a couple outside, staring at us strangely. I nudged my boyfriend as we entered, and he gave his name to be added to the waiting list. The host informed us that there will be a 45-minute wait and promised to text us when our table was ready. My boyfriend suggested we pass the time by playing mini-golf across the street. As we walked back to his car, the woman from the staring couple approached us and introduced herself as Mrs. Grady. I found this encounter odd and glanced at my boyfriend. The woman still had her hand out, and I didn't want to be impolite, so I shook her hand. She then explained that she and her husband thought we looked like a great couple, and that they were photographers who believed we would look great in photos. She suggested we follow them to their studio, as she thought the wait time would be long. She mentioned that she didn't have a business card with her, but their studio was just a 5-minute drive away, and they could take us there. This raised some concerns for us, and my boyfriend politely declined, mentioned that we had other plans. The woman's smiles was unsettling as she sat down next to her husband. As we got into our car, I expressed to my boyfriend how creepy this interaction felt, and how strange it was that the husband didn't say a word through the encounter. As we walked into the mini-golf place, we were surprised to see that it was empty. We laughed it off, but I was still feeling uneasy because the place wasn't very big and you could see the front door from all the levels. During our 5th round, I heard the entrance bell ring. When I turned to look, my heart sank. It was the same lady with her husband. She looked around, and when our eyes met, she gave me a creepy smile. I told my boyfriend about it, and he turned to look as they were getting their things. I expressed my discomfort and suggested we wait in the car, since 50 minutes had already passed. He agreed, and as we turned around, they were right behind us, smiling widely. It was strange how we all ended up at the same spot. Mrs. Grady said this time, and her husband mentioned that we should face each other, Grady versus Rod. My boyfriend's heart sank at that moment because his last name is Rod. We politely declined their offers, not wanting to know how they obtained that information. We mentioned that we had to leave, and both of their smiles disappeared as we hurried out of there. I suggested to my boyfriend that we should end the night and head back to his place since it was closer than mine and my parents wouldn't be home until Sunday morning. He agreed, saying we would go after dinner and not let a strange couple ruin our evening. We sat in his car for about 15 minutes discussing how odd this situation was when he received a text from the restaurant informing us that our table was ready. We had dinner, and he insisted on paying that day since it was Valentine's Day, even though we usually split the bill. While waiting for my boyfriend in the bathroom, I thought I saw the lady peeking out from around the corner. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination. When my boyfriend came out and was ready to leave for his place, we had to take a long road surrounded by trees. As we started driving, we noticed a car following behind us. I informed my boyfriend, and we decided to pull into a CVS parking lot. Both of us needed to use the restroom, so we got out of the car. When we came back out, the car that was potentially following us was nowhere to be seen. We continued on our way to his house, driving along the road surrounded by the trees that I mentioned earlier. After driving for about 3 to 5 minutes on that road, we reached his house. We heard a loud noise and my boyfriend stopped the car. Both of the front tires had burst. He quickly realized what was happening and urged me to get out of the car as there wasn't much time before someone arrived. He turned off the engine, switched off the light, and locked the doors. I was frightened and confused, unsure of what was going on. I suggested waiting in the car, but he swiftly grabbed my hand and we ran into the nearby woods. He instructed me to be quiet as we hid behind some trees and bushes. While in hiding, he called the police and provided them with our location and a brief explanation of the situation. The person on the phone told us to wait for the police, who would arrive in a few minutes. He mentioned he couldn't stay on the line and ended the call. We stayed lying down and heard a car approaching. My boyfriend advised us to stay flat on the ground, and we heard the car's engine stop. We recognized Mrs. Grady's voice, although we weren't sure if that it was her real name. She shouted that we had taken too long. We then heard a car door close and the vehicle speeding away. We remained on the ground until the police arrived, which was about 2 minutes later. We told them what happened and were informed that they would contact us if there were any update. I called my sister to come and pick us up while he called a tow truck for his car. 4 years have passed and we still haven't heard anything about it or who they were.